This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, football fans, and welcome to the Onside Kick. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by the Mark Weber.
Dub them E's.
And Mark, we finally made. This has been the podcast where I've been asking you.
Yeah, it's like 2 weeks in the making.
2 weeks ago, I'm like, can we do our midseason predictions? No, not yet. Maybe we'll do it next week. Last week. So we're doing them, right? No, we gotta wait till the next week. Then teams will be at 8 wins.
Yeah.
We're finally here.
We did
what
it.
I wanted to do.
We have 8-0 teams. That's what matters.
And we have 3 of them. We're going to be this podcast, for those of you who are like, well, what does this mean, predictions? We're going to review some of the stuff that we looked at the beginning of the year. Ricky Widmer's probably going to give 2 more teams the kiss of death because giving it to the Colts and the Cowboys just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
This year.
Knock some more of them off.
I gotta knock the Patriots and the Giants out of Super Bowl contention. But before we get into anything, Mark, I think the one thing, and we're finally going to talk about it. We've mentioned the subject very briefly in podcasts and videos, but we've kind of stayed away from the big subject from the first half of the NFL season, which is picking up steam, which seemed like it picked up steam more this past week.
For sure.
And that's Greg Hardy.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously Deadspin's article was a big impact. Deadspin essentially saying, hey, we have some of this evidence that's been missing from all of the general public. Here you go. You guys be the judge. You guys, be the ones that make decisions in this. And I think that's important to an extent. I think it's really nice to, you do worry a little bit on the actual victim in this case of, what happens to them with all this stuff being on. Do they want to be out in the public eye and things like that? Because many don't. But it's very important, I think, for the general public to see this and to be able to understand what happened and how it's amazing that Greg Hardy is still playing in the NFL and still is there, especially with everything else, with the still sexist remarks, with the gun, what was it where he was
guns blazing?
Yeah, guns blazing, which might seem innocent and whatever until you find out who Greg Hardy is and you realize this man literally does not feel bad for anything that's going to happen. He doesn't necessarily have any regret, it seems. He's completely okay with how everything happens.
Right now, there are so many thoughts. Like, I'll be honest, this is the one subject where usually I'm not really the kind of guy that where if you ask me, talk about this subject, I will give you my opinion. But this is one, not really where it's like, I don't want to touch this subject. It's just right now, Mark, I've got so many thoughts in my head of so many areas on this one conversation. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to begin in my own head.
Well, there is a lot to it, and the kind of greater issue. It all comes down to domestic violence, essentially. But I think the main thing, there's so much that could be said and so much that should be said. But for the purpose of this podcast and the people who listen to this podcast, it really needs to focus on the NFL's issue with this and also the Cowboys and how essentially, I mean, there's a whole greater irony to this, but essentially the Cowboys are enabling Greg Hardy and enabling the future Greg Hardy, the future Ray Rice. I have to do it because he's in there too, but Adrian Peterson. The next time one of these happens, they're enabled because the Cowboys said it's okay. The Ravens didn't. The Ravens said this is not okay. And the rest of the NFL said, yeah, you're right, not okay. The Vikings said, this is not okay, but we'll give you a second chance. Greg Hardy arguably had second chances, and the NFL and basically the Dallas Cowboys are saying, yeah, this is okay. And I say there's some irony to it because this is America's team. And there is a huge issue in America with domestic violence. Huge issue. Insanely huge issue. And that spins off into all different directions. But to just talk about the things related to Greg Hardy, of course, it's just amazing that America's team, they deem themselves that, are the one that is calling the guy who beats on women and literally wanted her, this woman who's supposed to love, literally had her wanting him to kill her so it would just stop. To that extent, that's America's team saying, that's okay, this is our leader. He's the guy who's, the entire locker room loves this guy. They're behind him. That's America's team. That's very sad. It's sad that Jerry Jones, he is a businessman, so what can you expect? But Jerry Jones is not at one point said, we are above this, at least for one game. Suspend the guy a game.
I just don't understand where, and I'm glad you said that, because now in my head I finally have a starting point for all these thoughts I have. I don't understand how go back to Ray Rice when everything was happening with Ray. What was the big nail in the coffin?
It's the
video.
TMZ.
And, the video, I'm not saying this is like it was A-okay, because it wasn't, but that compared to the images that you see from Greg Hardy looks like nothing compared to Greg Hardy. Adrian Peterson, what was the nail in the coffin that got him suspended for the year?
Got those pictures of
the pictures. Now it's like it's the third time this comes around, we get the pictures, and this time it's like, oh, well, he was suspended for 4 games. What else can we do? The way I see it, and this is me, I was listening to Mike and Mike earlier this week on Monday, and they were talking about it with CC, with Chris Carter, and the big thing, and with this situation, I hate when people bring up I don't agree with what he did, but at the same time, we're a land of second chances, of opportunity. And part of me is like, okay, I understand that. Part of me does believe that people make mistakes and not everyone's perfect. And in some cases, you deserve a second chance. However, with Greg Hardy, and Mark, you can tell me if I'm totally off the rocker here. The way I see it, maybe this is because I'm not an NFL star. I'll never be an NFL star. I'll never be an NBA star, an MLB star. To me, playing in the National Football League is a privilege. It is a privilege, not a right, that not everybody gets. People strive to be in the NFL and fall short. Look at Ryan Leaf. However, once you do something like Greg Hardy did, you're done. You don't get to come back. You can have a second chance somewhere else. Your days playing football are done.
And I'm glad Dave Oster's not on this podcast, because I'm about to bring up a point that annoys the hell out of him.
Role models.
Yeah. These are role models. I do not care what you say that they should or should not be role models. They are.
Kids look up to them.
And Greg Hardy, there's a lot of Cowboy fans in America. There's a lot of kids that don't know anything about Greg Hardy, just see him doing these great things on the football field, and that's a guy they look up to. And when they start to learn things about him, they're going to forgive that. And isn't that the exact culture we're trying to get rid of? The culture that forgives the abuser and actually supports the victim for once.
I totally believe that Greg Hardy, because of what he did, should lose his privilege of being in the National Football League. Doesn't mean that he can't have a second chance. Like, okay, I'm sorry for what I did. I want to have a second chance, like what Ray Rice is trying to do, where it's like, you know what? I want to try to work with domestic violence and raise awareness for it.
Yeah.
If I don't get signed by a team in the next coming weeks, you can have your second chance. Maybe like, okay, I want to be an analyst for Fox. I'm sorry for what I did. I want to come back to the working world, maybe even coaching. But you are done as a player in the National Football League. Completely done as a player because of what you did. You know what? Scratch that. no coaching.
Yeah, I would have taken that out too.
I take that out.
I would
You're
take the analyst out too, because for me it's like, what? No, we don't want to touch that. You don't even get to be in these games. But I do think that everybody deserves a second chance. I'll say that, but you get a second chance in society.
Yes.
This is the NFL.
That's what I'm going for.
You don't get a second chance here. I wish Ray Rice didn't get a second chance.
No.
Now, that was up to the league. Nobody decided to sign him, but he didn't get a second chance.
It kind of goes back to, and I'm surprised no one's actually saying this. Mm-hmm. Usually, think back to anywhere. Think of school. When you were in school and something happened where some kid got in trouble for something that school administrators didn't even think of. Usually the first one to break a rule that's like that no one even thinks would be broken, usually they get the harsher penalty than the people that come after it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that it's a shame to see, but that's what it is. However, in this case, we have physical evidence now of those pictures, and how can you stare? And this is one of those things where this is how messed up this situation is, Mark, and the listeners out there. The pictures are bad, but just reading about it without the pictures, it sounds just as bad.
It sounds worse.
It's not one of those. It's not one of those things where it's like, yeah, you know what? I need to see the pictures. It's I don't want to see the pictures.
Yeah, yeah, and I think. I like how you brought it up. The first one's usually the worst, because that's exactly what's kind of happened in this situation. Ray Rice got it the worst. Mm-hmm. Adrian Peterson got it kind of bad. Greg Hardy's A-okay. He was 4 games was the suspension. That's really nothing when you're making millions of dollars.
Brandon brought it up perfectly. I can't remember if it was in a podcast or a video. This is a perfect analogy. Mm-hmm. I think it was in the Primetime podcast this past week. Greg Hardy got the same for beating a woman. Mm-hmm. Greg Hardy got the same amount of games as Tom Brady did for deflating some footballs.
And Tom Brady's got taken away, but yes, you're right.
But I mean, Tom Brady 4 games. Now Goodell wanted to give Greg Hardy 10 at first, but it went down to 4. But if you look at that 4, he served the same suspension that Tom Brady was supposed to serve for deflating some footballs. Mm-hmm. What does that tell you?
Yeah. And this is the end. We just got out of the month where we cared about women, too, for breast cancer. I'm making it breast cancer, too, but typically we think of the women.
You mean
the
pink
footballs.
You mean the
pink,
month where the NFL
jerseys.
exploits breast cancer. Let's
Pretty
be
much.
honest.
But yeah, like it's this big month where we're like, hey, we care. Buy these pink jerseys. At the same time, Greg Hardy's right there.
About that,
you could buy a pink Greg Hardy jersey.
This is a little bit off the topic of that, but yeah, you know what? We care, but yeah, D'Angelo Williams, if you want to wear pink all year because your mother died of breast cancer, no, you can't do that. Only October.
I don't want to get into that one because I actually agree with the NFL.
I'm just bringing that out that's one of those things where it's like,
dumb, but I agree with the NFL. Because that's one of those ones where you start to bend and then you got to bend for everybody. Same thing with it happens like almost every other week with somebody wearing
about
shoes,
like with
different colors.
I think Brandon Marshall with the green
did
sneakers.
Yeah, he used to always do it.
Because for mental health.
Now, what was good with Brandon Marshall is he used to then donate that money.
Yeah.
He would match it and donate.
You're talking about the fine.
Yeah, the fine.
Yeah.
No, I agree with the NFL on that only because you give a little, you got to give a lot. Mm-hmm. This is not anything, I think, similar to any of that, where it's just the NFL. I don't know. To me, the NFL is supposed to be this great league of great sportsmanship, great competition.
The integrity of the league.
This is supposed to have integrity. I've been told that many times that there's integrity in this league and in this game. But you see a guy like Greg Hardy, and it just looks bad. There really is no way to say it. This is a guy who should not be here. I loved when Terry Bradshaw said it on live TV, that's saying, I hope that one day the NFL gets to a point where we do not have room for a guy like this. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we do. We have room for this guy. We have not done anything about it. And really, the thing I will say is, Yeah, we can complain about Greg Hardy all we want, but a lot of us are to blame for this. All you Cowboy fans out there, what the fuck are you guys doing? Go out there and do something.
I was just gonna say, you want to know?
Stop buying tickets. Stop watching the games.
I was just gonna say, you want to know how we stop this? Cowboy fans, it may be hard. Stop buying tickets. Just
do
stop
something.
buying anything that's
Just
Cowboys.
Write a fucking letter if you have to. I mean, that's how we talk to our congressmen and shit when we want them to do something. Write a letter to the Cowboys organization saying, hey, I'm not going to tune in next week because you guys still have this guy on your team. You're still letting him play. This is why I'm not okay with that. Do something. Don't buy jerseys. Don't buy tickets. Don't watch the games. Don't buy shit that has Cowboys on it.
I know this is never going to happen, but you know what I would love to see? Mm-hmm. Because of how bad this situation is, if it was like, if Greg Hardy continues to play, if Cowboy fans, if you actually stood up for what was right, and last home game, it's a completely empty stadium.
Yeah, never will happen.
It won't happen because Jerry Jones will be there. But, I mean, could you imagine that? A completely barren stadium, Jerry World went to waste.
Yeah, it would never happen.
That would be great.
Now, I want to say that we're putting a lot on Cowboys fans. The rest of us need to do it too. Don't watch Cowboys games. Don't buy anything that has Cowboys on it. If your fucking team is playing the Cowboys, don't watch.
Does Red Zone count? Because they periodically go. Do you turn the TV off?
I mean, does that really do anything?
Or turn the
Probably
cable
not.
box off?
And of course, it really doesn't matter unless you're a Nielsen family, anyways.
Yeah.
But I still think there's some points to it. There's still some relevance to it. Don't click yet another ad that has Greg Hardy on it. Just stop. Mm-hmm. Stop paying attention to the guy.
And you know what's one thing I'm going to bring up, and I got this from that Mike and Mike conversation that they had on Monday.
Yeah.
If you go back to Greg Hardy, his comments right after he came back from the suspension. Mm-hmm. And if you're like, man, Ricky, I don't even remember what he said. Go back and find it on YouTube and watch it. It sounds like a guy where after the suspension had to talk to a therapist, had to do all this league mandated stuff. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a guy that isn't sorry for what he did. It's just going through the motions.
Oh, yeah.
Just going through the motions to play football.
You know what? Here's the thing. Here's what we'll do. Here's what I'm going to say first. These are the games coming up. Buccaneers, Dolphins, Panthers, Redskins, Packers, Jets, Bills, Redskins again. Don't watch those games. Just don't. I can't tell you what to do. You can do what you want, but I'm going to ask the people who are listening to our podcast, if you're a fan of any of those teams, don't watch your game on that one. If you are just watching games and that's one of the ones on, choose a different one. Because there's usually more than one game on. Choose a different one. Only one of these is a primetime game. So on that one on
Monday night.
Yep, that Monday night game against the Redskins, don't watch it. I won't. Choose not to watch it.
2 prime times. There's also December 19th, the prime time.
Is it? Yeah, it is. That's correct. With the Jets, don't watch that one either. I mean, if people want it, if they want to put it in the comments, I'll go so far as to create a form letter that you can send the fucking Cowboys. Send it there. And I would say that
saying that you're not going to watch.
I would, let's say I'm a Buccaneers fan. I think that makes at least somewhat of a statement to say, hey, I'm sending you guys this letter. I'm a Buccaneers fan, but I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch my team that I love play your team because your team is disgraceful to the integrity of the league, whatever it might be. I can come up with something nice and eloquent. But yeah, don't watch that game. I mean, if they're not going to make the playoffs, but if they made the playoffs, don't watch that playoff game.
Talking about the Cowboys?
Yeah. I mean, that's, I know that's such a simple thing to say, and really, I know there's so many people out there who are saying it really doesn't matter, but there's got to be something. Like, you got to do something, because none of us, we can all complain about it, we can all hate Greg Hardy all we want, but really what it comes down to is voting with your wallet. And I hate the term vote for your wallet. I hate that term so much.
Well, the NFL's
but that's
a business.
Really what it is.
It's a business. It's out of all the sports I listed earlier, they make the most money.
And I'm not even joking.
And
if people want it in the comment section, I'll come up with a form letter that you can send to Jerry Jones. He's not going to read it. But
seriously,
sure.
do it. I would say do it. And I'm going to say
It'll be on our website. It'll be on Most Valuable Podcasts.
It was, and that's mostvaluablepodcast.com, by the way. There was, I want to say it was a week or two ago. I don't even remember when I watched so many of these sports talk shows. It was highly questionable. You have Poppy, Lebitard, Bomani. Bomani said something. They were talking about Greg Hardy, and Bomani said something. And me as a person, as a human being, hated it. Absolutely hated it. But it wasn't like one of those things where it's like you're watching First Take and Skip Bayless says something stupid. It was he said something totally and tragically true. They were talking about how Greg Hardy with his comments and how there could be something in Greg Hardy's head that makes him messed up.
Sure.
And not healthy as an individual and makes him that aggressive personality. And Bomani Jones, I don't remember the exact words, but the bottom line of it was, you know what? Greg Hardy may have some things going on in his head that makes him messed up and aggressive and stupid. However, it's those things that make him really good at his job. Really good at his job. And he's like, we can hate it all we want, but all we can do is sit back and do nothing. Like, sit back and accept it, because there's nothing that we can do.
I mean, unless you really do want to do something. I mean, people are powerful.
Because they brought up, like, with Ray Rice, the whole thing of, like, being aggressive, like, thinking about domestic violence, which is, we're talking in this case, aggression towards a woman. A running back doesn't have the same aggressive play style as a pass rusher.
Yeah,
as I'm going to maul the quarterback. And that it makes Greg Hardy great at his job. Yeah. However, he's a shitty person and shouldn't be in the NFL.
And to that point of, we have to sit back and do nothing about it. But I mean,
he didn't say it exactly like that, but it was along those lines.
But I mean, I get what he's saying in that of, like, there's nothing that we can really do. We just have to accept that this shitty thing is happening. But at the same time, the fans have a lot of power. Do something about it. And,
well, look at what happened with what went down this week with Missouri and their football team.
That actually did something.
Football team gets involved.
People
boom,
can be powerful
right away.
at times. And there's been failed things too. There's always people who spoke out against Michael Vick every time Michael Vick got to start a game because of the dog abuse, dog fighting. In that case, there's always people that did that. But if you just do something, like, send a fucking tweet to the official Cowboys Twitter saying, hey guys, not watching your game this week because you still have Greg Hardy on your team. Does it do anything? Not really, but at least it's bad publicity.
But if we get enough bad publicity, then it's something that happens. It's nothing. If one person does something, it's not going to happen. It takes a movement to do it, and it's
always worth trying, I guess. I just think, it's ridiculous. Or in that case, too, at least ask the Cowboys, like, hey, if you're going to have this abuser on your team, you could at least donate to some domestic abuse facilities in the area or something, which maybe they do. I don't know that they don't, but I'm assuming that they don't because they have Greg Hardy on their team.
Or take all the money you get from his jersey sales and give it to, like, a domestic charity. Jason Witten has a domestic violence charity. Give it to his. Then you're helping. Then you're promoting. I mean, you're kind of, you can say selfishly promoting your own teammate, but it's going to a domestic violence charity. So that's the point, right? That's the bottom line of it. And I don't know. I mean, the one I just think of, I think it was Chris Carter brought it up, was like with Jerry Jones, it's like he has a daughter that works in the organization. And he goes, it's because I'm a father and I have a daughter where he's like, I think to myself, what if that was my daughter?
Yeah.
what would I feel like if that was my daughter?
I mean,
and he goes, Jerry Jones has his daughter works in. He's like, Jerry Jones. Just picture if Greg Hardy took your daughter and shoved her head into a toilet and beat the crap out of her. And with me personally, Mark, and I think you're kind of similar. We're not married. We don't have kids.
We are similar in that.
However, the one thing I will throw out there is me, and this is Dave used to always hate when I mentioned like personal stuff, but for those of you who don't know, I am a teacher. And now, like, just the more years that you teach, just the first thing I thought of was, what if that was like a student of mine? One of the girls growing up, and then that was her. How would I feel, kind of a thing?
I always just, my thing that I have here is, just think of all the women you know, think of all the men you know in your life.
Moms, your sisters, grandmothers.
I mean, even there's men out there too
aunts.
that are getting abused. It happens. So you know somebody who has been a victim of domestic violence. You do. I'm not saying you might. I'm saying there's a fact that you know somebody who's been a victim of domestic violence of some kind. And I mean, that's that simple. Like that's just the point that needs to be made there. You do, in fact, know somebody who's gone through it. You probably know multiple people who've gone through it. And you probably know people who've gone through it many times.
And you're not saying it's like you may have a family where, oh, well, that doesn't happen in my family. But you may be friends with somebody who you know somebody that they know and they've gone through it.
I mean, I'd even say it's probably closer than that. You probably just don't know. Because most people don't talk about it.
Who publicly says that? And especially when you're the victim, you say something and you're like afraid to get beat again.
Yeah.
That's how it is. And I mean, I even just look at pictures of Greg Hardy or I see him on the TV and Mark, the just anger that goes through my veins. I've never felt such an anger in my life. Or it just makes me think when I would say, like, as a kid, oh, I hate this person. And my grandfather would say, don't say that. Hate's a strong word. But I look at Greg Hardy, and I honestly hate him. And I don't even know him. And I hate him. Yeah, just because of what he stands for.
And I mean, you know, Greg Hardy's only one thing. I really do think there's so much, the NFL too, but there's so much blame that should go onto Greg Hardy. Or not Greg Hardy, the Dallas Cowboys. Because the NFL can really only do so much. I mean, to be fair, Roger Goodell did try and suspend him 10 games. And it got reduced to 4. You know, I'm not championing, Roger Goodell here. But
think about this, though.
Jerry Jones really needs to get a lot of this blame and the brunt of this blame put onto him because he's like single-handedly the person deciding that this continues to happen.
I thought about this as I was walking out of the door to come here for the podcast. Any other job, teacher, cop, firefighter, I'd even go as far to say executive at, I don't know, some company downtown in Chicago. You do something like this, like the other millions of things that you can do that are on this level that I'm not going to name because I just don't want to get into it. What happens? Like, you think of, let's say, this exact thing, domestic violence, happened with a teacher. I bet you 9 out of 10 times that teacher gets fired from the school and then can't get a job teaching again. Because that is on their resume. Well, not their resume, but their reputation is ruined. But in football, we need to win games. Well, guess what? Greg Hardy's not helping you win games. You've lost 6 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, he's done great things on the field, though. I mean, you can't deny that his stats are great. That's all that Jerry Jones has seen. And I do think it's interesting. I think it was USA Today. It was USA Today that has... a post where their headline essentially is just that Jerry Jones is a bigger problem for the NFL than Greg Hardy is. And that's true, because, I mean, Greg Hardy's just one thing. But Jerry Jones is the guy creating this culture of, whatever. Oh, he's a good football player. Of just let's sweep it under the rug, let's ignore it. And that is, unfortunately what it is. It would be so much easier if Jerry Jones had a company that was easier to do something about, but he's in the, natural resource business. So what are you going to do about that? There's really no way to get to these people, which is really what the biggest frustrating thing is. And when I make my big plea to do something about it, tweet at the Cowboys, send them an email, whatever it might be, don't buy tickets, don't watch that game. It makes such a minimal impact that it's very defeating in that sense. And I totally understand that with everybody, but it's just kind of, it's just unfortunate that there's really nothing that can be done. And at the end of the day, Greg Hardy, unless he does something else dumb, is going to continue being in the NFL. Jerry Jones is going to continue owning the Cowboys. And he's going to continue making a shit ton of money off of this. And it's just one of those situations where you sit there and you go, the bad guys are going to win.
Well, you just brought something to my mind. Just because when you said Jerry Jones is still going to say still going to own the Cowboys, look what happened in the NBA. Donald Sterling says what he says, loses his team because of it.
Yeah, because the players said no.
And they stood up for it.
And to be fair, and that's 15 players and this, or 12 players, and this is 53.
But here's what I think part of the problem, and this is a part of the problem that they meant, like Golick mentioned it, CC mentioned it on Mike and Mike, because they actually are in football locker rooms. The way Golick said it was, there's going to be guys on that team that you don't like. But when you're out there on the field, it's one of those things where, hey, I may not like him, but I've got his back. Then when you leave the facility, you never see him. You don't care about him. And to me, that's a problem because, I mean, then that shows me that we're not going to see what the NBA did, where it was, of course, when LeBron James is behind it, it would kind of be like, I don't know, Tom Brady being the poster child for this in the NFL, but it's like you get that mentality, and I hear that, and I go, great. So the players aren't going to stand up for it, because when he's on the football field, he's one of us. How about it's one of those things where it's like, I can't even look at you and have respect for you as a human being, right now, let alone play football with you.
I mean, that would be wonderful. It really would. It's unfortunate that doesn't happen. It's unfortunate. I'm sure the players feel the same way, where they're saying there's one of me and there's 52 other guys. I speak up, I'm going to get traded or cut.
If enough of them do it, like in the NBA.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the defeating thing for them. They're not going to do anything because they're afraid of that. It wasn't even one
team. It was both teams. It was the Clippers and the team they were playing.
It's just unfortunate. I think that, that's the attitude within that locker room of, I can't stand up. I can't do anything about this. And that's the attitude around everything. I mean, hell, maybe you should go tweet, Tony Romo and say, hey, Tony, you support this guy? And then he'll say, I'll support him as my teammate. No, you support what he did because you're letting him still play. You're associating with him. No associates, whatever. But why? I mean, the people who do have power, the people who are in those locker rooms, why don't they make a bigger deal out of it? Like, why don't they try and say things like that? Like, hey,
because it's all this thing about the fraternity.
You've got your charity that's directly against what he does. Explain that to me. Explain how you can be in the same room as this guy. Oh, because we work together. No, but explain how it's okay. Explain why that's reasonable, because you're enabling it too. You're a part of the team. You might not be actively enabling it, but you're enabling it one way or another. I don't know. It's just, we can talk about it all day. We can be annoyed with it and everything like that. I don't want to go too far on because I know we talked about it for a long time. The thing for me, I just want to say is, even if you just decide you don't want to watch one Cowboys game, or if you're going to change the channel, I think that's nice. Nice sentiment. Does it do anything? Probably not. I just think that we, as fans of an organization and of a league, need to be able to say what is okay, what is acceptable, and what is not acceptable, what is not okay. Unfortunately, we didn't do that. I mean, some of us tried, obviously a good amount of people were outraged, but we moved on. And unfortunately, nothing's going to really happen with this. Nothing's going to change in that case. It's really sad to see. in that sense. And it's sad that, next year we're probably not going to talk about any of this with Greg Hardy when he continues to play for the Cowboys.
You're talking about next season?
Next season, he's going to continue playing. Jerry Jones is still going to own the Cowboys. They're going to win games, and people will stop talking about it. And it'll suddenly become, the jokes about Ray Lewis killing a guy. It'll be the joke about, hide your kids, hide your wife. Greg Hardy's coming to town. That's what it's going to turn into. And that's just unfortunate.
Before we get into our predictions, I want to say one thing to put the kibosh on it for me. There was 2 Philly linemen that came out after the Sunday night game, and you can read their comments. I'm going to put the link to the ESPN story in the description if you want to read it. But the gist of it is one of them was Lane Johnson, tackle.
Yeah,
said that he tried to put a little extra mustard on blocks. I hated Bountygate. I hated what it stood for, mainly because A, it injured good players, and B, I saw my team 1 win away from the Super Bowl because of it. And even though I hate that, I am okay with because they're offensive linemen. They're not defensive players running at full speed. I'm okay with offensive linemen putting a little bit of extra mustard on Hardy blocks.
The one thing I do want to add,
to rattle him a little bit, to say we're not okay with you.
Yeah. The one thing I want to add, we started strong. We're saying all these things we should do, and they all sound nice. But since really, I think we all are well aware of the fact that when it comes to affecting the Cowboys, there's really not much we can do. Yeah, you cannot buy a jersey. That's great. But the one thing I will ask, if you ever have the opportunity, just do something with your local area, whether you want to, volunteer at a women's shelter, whether you just want to tell somebody who's gone through any kind of abuse, man or woman, hey, it's okay, I'm here for you. I mean, that little sentiment might be enough to help somebody not want to kill themselves. In the way that Greg Hardy's, the victim in this situation she just wanted to die. I mean, literally, that is a quote. She wanted to die.
Or when she said, oh my God, this is the time it's actually going to happen.
Yeah. And it's just like, the thing is just, you can't affect the Cowboys probably, so at least you can do something to help your college campus or your high school campus or just your general group of friends. Don't enable that type of stuff, that behavior. Let people who might be in dangerous situations know it's okay. Here's some resources. Maybe just share some resources on your damn Facebook or your Twitter feed. All of that would be helpful, at least a little bit. At least there's one thing that you can do to kind of make it a little bit better, because this issue that we have on America's team is a grand representation of the issue we have in the entire country and beyond that too. But, for us here in America, let's deal with that first. I don't know.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. But, and I don't want, this is probably going to be the worst transition that I've ever done in our podcast history. And it's only because like Mark said, we've talked about it enough. We're over 38 minutes on the Greg Hardy. I didn't plan to talk this long on it. It's just one of those subjects where, especially with me, this entire weeks, I've just been bottling up everything. Yeah. I guess this is just us finally. I mean, there's a letting it all out.
There's a reason we didn't want to really talk about it until halfway through the season.
Yeah,
because what can you? We can talk about it for so long. There's not much you can do. It's kind of a defeating type of thing. But
to move on, we're going to look at our predictions, our mid-season predictions. To be honest, Mark, I don't remember much about
that's probably a good thing.
My beginning of the season. The only things I remember is that I had Cowboys Colts in the Super Bowl with the Cowboys winning.
Yeah. I had a rematch. I went out and I said that the Patriots and the Seahawks were going to find themselves in the playoffs again, in the Super Bowl again. And then this time, I'm pretty sure this time I said the Patriots were going to win again. But this time they were going to say, hey, we did it without cheating. I might have been wrong.
How's
Maybe
that working? How's that working for the Seahawks? As I honestly, as Mark was talking, I wheeled over because to grab my laptop because I'm one of those people.
To be fair, the Seahawks are, if it ended today, the Seahawks are in the playoffs.
Would they be?
Yep.
No, ESPN has that they're the 8th. The playoffs would be Carolina, Green Bay, then Arizona and the Giants.
I guess that's
Vikings,
true.
Falcons.
I was ignoring some teams. I kind of
Some good
forgot.
teams.
I kind of forgot that the Falcons were good this year, and just kind of put the Seahawks in there.
Yeah, that kind of happened.
Well, to be fair, they're September Warriors. Let's get down
Talking
to
about the Falcons?
Yeah, let's get down to when it counts. I'm not talking about the Bengals right now. I'm talking about the Falcons. But yeah, I mean, I think some of the big surprises. I mean, New York Giants winning that division is surprising. The Falcons being good. Most people probably thought the Vikings would be pretty good, but didn't think they'd really be doing as well as they are. The Jets.
Wait.
You're a Vikings fan. You don't count.
Who said that? Like, who had?
You're a
them as the
Vikings
sixth
fan.
spot?
You don't count.
Yeah, I count.
You're a Vikings
I
fan.
count all day.
I said the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl, 1985 style. Beyond that, I mean, the Jets, who expected that? The Steelers, and people were kind of up in the air about. Mm-hmm. Some of those teams that people thought, maybe the Texans, maybe the Dolphins could get in there. People thought the Seattle Seahawks would be better than they are. The Eagles will probably be better. A lot of these ones are kind of up in the air. I mean, I don't know. Maybe people didn't expect the San Francisco 49ers to be a complete dumpster fire. Or the Lions, for that matter, to be the worst team of all NFL history. Because essentially the Cowboys, I am deeming them the worst team in all of NFL history. But with that being said, Ricky.
Okay.
What do we think now? I don't necessarily think we need to go through the entire playoffs.
No, I grabbed mine because I was interested to see how off I am, just generally how off I am, and
I don't even think I kept mine.
I had the Chargers in the playoffs.
So did I.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
I had them the number 2 seed, I think.
I'll just give my championship games. I had Cowboys, Seahawks. At this point, looks like neither of those will happen. Cowboys winning. Then I had Colts over the Patriots. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was down on the Patriots.
Yeah, I know I had the Patriots and the Chargers, I think. And obviously the Patriots winning. Mm-hmm. And the Seahawks. And I don't remember who. It might have been Green Bay.
I had boys over the Colts. I remember that.
I really don't remember who I had the Seahawks against. But they won.
Yeah.
So that's what matters.
Was it the Cardinals?
No, because I wouldn't have put Carson Palmer into the conference game. I don't think.
I'll be honest. The whole thing I'm thinking about right now is who's Ricky Widmer going to give the kiss of death to.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think now? Given what we have now, what would you say your conference games are?
My conference games, if the playoffs ended today, and I really in the NFC, we'll start NFC.
Sure.
I really like the only teams I see making a move in the second half are maybe the Rams and the Seahawks. Rams and Seahawks for that 6th spot. Mm-hmm. Well, 5-6, because I think the Falcons will kind of fall off a little bit. There. Even though they were my team to win the division, but I think the Panthers were going to be the Panthers. And the Eagles may make a run for the division, but I'm going to say my conference championship game, Cardinals-Panthers.
Interesting.
And in the AFC, I'm going to say Bengals-Broncos.
All right. I'll say my teams I think can make some splash.
No, I can't say that. It'd have to be Bengals-Patriots because it can't be, Bengals-Broncos because things are going to change.
Yeah. So the things I think can happen, I think the Seahawks can get in there. I think they can squeeze their way into a wild card spot.
They can.
The Falcons, I think, are going to drop. I've already gone on record in the preseason saying that the Vikings weren't going to make the playoffs. I'm going to stick to that.
Remember our bet, though, about that.
Sure. I'm going to stick to that. I think that...
Do you remember anything about that bet?
I'm supposed to wear a jersey or something like that. I think.
And then if the did something, I was supposed to wear a Cutler jersey. Specifically a Cutler jersey.
Were you going to buy a Cutler jersey?
Yes.
For this? All right.
But the Bears have I don't see the Bears going anywhere near the playoffs.
No, it wasn't the playoffs. It was just if the Vikings didn't make it.
Oh,
That's
yes.
what it was.
Okay.
So you got a lot riding on these Vikings staying
We're
good.
still going to make the playoffs.
I think they can drop out, and I think they will. And I think the Eagles actually can drop or can get in. I will not
I want
be
the Giants
surprised
to get in, though.
I will not be surprised if both the Giants and the Eagles make the playoffs. I won't be surprised by that.
So you're saying the Vikings go home in that situation?
Yep. Vikings out. Vikings have a tough schedule coming up. They really do. And they're playing a lot of teams that are playing strong even though they have weak schedules.
We can get to 10-6.
Weak records.
The reason why I say we can get to 10-6 is besides that 49er game, we played the Broncos close. We probably should have given the Broncos their first loss earlier in the season.
Nah.
It was only a 3-point game at the time.
Here's the thing, though. Raiders are coming on strong right now. The Packers are the Packers. You're going to have to play them twice. The Falcons, they might drop off, but they've been good. Seahawks.
Gotta play the Seahawks and the Cardinals.
That's tough. Cardinals tough. Bears game was already tough.
I'm sorry. Bears, Giants, though. Raiders.
But you got to remember, this is December's Giants. These are the Giants that are getting ready to win a Super Bowl when they make that improbable 9-7 run.
I'm still confident that we can beat the Raiders, Bears, and Giants. However, the thing that scares me is that only puts us at 9 wins.
Yeah.
We would have to win one. We'd have to win one of the other 5, which is 2 Packers, a Falcon, Seahawks, and a Cardinal. Mm-hmm. Or if, let's say, we lost to, let's say, a Giant, then we'd have to win 2 of those toughies.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. It will. In the NFC, obviously I'm going to claw up. They're going to be in there.
I really don't know who
I'm going to go ahead.
Who am I giving my kiss of death to, though, out of the 2?
My team that the Cardinals are going... that the Panthers
the
are
Cardinals?
going to... No, not the Cardinals. Carson Palmer. Are going to play in the NFC Championship game. Those of you who don't know, I really think Carson Palmer is an injury waiting to happen at all times. I think history has proven that to be correct.
But Aaron Rodgers looks like a bust. Just that bust.
With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and put Aaron Rodgers into the NFC Championship game against the Panthers.
Rematch in Carolina?
And you know what's going to happen?
Packers are going to win?
No, the Panthers are going to beat them again. The Packers are going to think they can do it, but they just can't. I really want to put the Giants in the Super Bowl because of that improbable 9-7 run that's bound to happen. But
am I allowed to change my AFC prediction?
Sure.
I'm going to say undefeated Patriots versus the Bengals.
Because you want the Giants to get in there?
Just wait. Then I'm going to say undefeated Panthers against the Cardinals. Panthers win. Patriots win. Patriots beat the Panthers to go undefeated. And I am being very strategic by saying this. I'm being very
Dolphins fans cry.
I'm being very kiss of deathy right now.
So I when it comes to my AFC, I want to get to this. Bills, nope. Raiders actually got a shot. They could get into this thing somehow.
Do the Bengals win a playoff game? Do you still think they can win a playoff game? Because you did think they could in the preseason.
I did. And they currently have the 2nd seed, which is kind of... No, actually, I think I had them at number 1. I'm pretty sure I had the Bengals number 1. Because Tom Brady was going to lose 4 games.
You had the Patriots losing 4 games.
Because he wasn't going to be there.
That Garoppolo kid.
Hey, so far, I am 100% on my Tom Brady predictions. I said Tom Brady would win 100% of the games he was in. And so far, he's won 100% of the games he's played in.
Because you said 12-4.
Yep. Okay, so I don't really think much is going to change, obviously, in the NFC. The Colts suck. Maybe the Texans can get in there. Only because Andrew Luck is hurt for like 4 to 6 weeks. He broke his spleen or something like that. Not much changes. Mostly because Fitzmagic is going to be in there. Mm-hmm. He's going to play. So the Jets can continue to be pretty decent. The Steelers are good. I think they hold on. None of those other teams scare me. The Dolphins for a second turned it on and then remembered the Dolphins and they turned it back off.
The mojo fell off.
New England Patriots versus Denver Broncos. That's all I got. And Aqib Talib. I'm counting on you, buddy. Are
we going to see a Patriot-Panther Super Bowl, like I said? The rematch? They did play in the Super Bowl once already.
But, it's also tempting to put the Panthers rematch against the Packers, then a rematch against the Broncos. The team that just knocks these guys off. No problems. Because,
What do you mean the rematch against the Broncos?
Oh, they didn't play the Broncos?
No, you're talking about the Colts.
Yeah.
You gonna put the Colts in the Super Bowl?
No. You think I'm gonna put that bust Andrew Luck in the Super Bowl? That guy's a bust. That joke is becoming way too real too, because he is not doing well, and now he's hurt, and suddenly I'm looking like a genius. I'm looking like Nostradamus here. But I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna do it. Peyton Manning, you're in. I'm sorry, New England Patriots fans. I took you out, even though you haven't done anything to deserve to be taken out. I'm putting Peyton Manning in there.
To Cam.
And you know what? I will give it to Cam. I'm going to claw up all the way to Disney World when... Actually, you know what? Fuck it. Luke Kuechly's going to Disney World. He's going to be the MVP.
Because Cam's going to win the regular season MVP.
Yeah, so then they got to give it to Luke Kuechly.
Yeah.
Well, but plus I think that in classic, this is the end of your career fashion, I can see Aqib Talib getting that interception off of Cam. And now not Tom Brady, I'm sorry, Broncos fans, not Tom Brady. Peyton Manning, he's got his shot. He can go and win the game with a touchdown. He needs a touchdown. And what does he do? At the goal line, interception, Luke Kuechly.
So just like last year.
I just Ricky Widmer that shit with my storyline. It's gonna be great.
Can I say just looking back at some bad predictions I made? Preseason, number one, Colts, I had them with 14 wins. Not going to happen.
Not even close.
Niners, 1 win. Raiders, 1 win. Not going to happen.
Nope. The Raiders might get a parade.
They could. They could get a parade. I also had the Lions as an 8-8 team. I mean, they could go 7-1 the rest of the way and make it right for me.
I don't think this happened, but I strangely feel like I predicted the Lions at one point to be 0-16. Maybe it's just because I always
joke.
I always predict that they'll be 0-16. But
what's the one prediction that I'm pretty close on?
What's that?
The Bears.
Yeah,
I had them with 6 wins. They're halfway there.
Very possible.
They're halfway there. I mean, that's not a hard kind of prediction to make. I also had the Seahawks with 14.
Yeah,
that ain't gonna happen. But out of the undefeated teams, Panthers, I had 9 wins. So they're gonna win one and then lose the rest of them, so that I'm right.
There you go.
And then I had the Bengals at 11, Patriots at 12.
Let's talk about this real quick.
Okay.
I think this is a good way to kind of bring it to a close
and to conclude everything, because we've ran long this podcast.
Yeah, we have. We had a lot to talk about with Greg Hardy, and it was a
that douchebag.
It was an emotionally taxing conversation. But MVP.
Cam Newton.
Not of the Super Bowl. Regular season.
Cam Newton.
Cammy? You gonna say it's Cammy?
It's either going to be Cam or Dalton. Well, it's either going to be Cam, Dalton, or Brady, but I feel like people are going to look at Tom Brady and say, well, the Patriots are the Patriots. The thing is, if Cam Newton, if he goes undefeated or wins the conference, people are going to look at that and go, he had nothing because of the Kelvin Benjamin injury. He's really the most valuable player on that team.
I think that's a good point, and I'm not taking anything away from that or Cam Newton or the Claw Up Nation, but I do think Tommy Terrific has a good chance to not only go undefeated, but win the MVP. Because he's Tom Brady. He's Tom Brady.
Or he's Matt Damon if you watch the Funny or Die video.
He's Tom Brady.
No, he's Ben Affleck.
Wearing his Ugg boots.
Come here, Jimmy. This is how you win. Here's some Ugg boots. No, Tom, those are for girls.
Tom Brady disagrees.
But that is going to do it for the onside kick this week. So tell us down below in the comment section, what's your midseason prediction? How wrong were you in the preseason? Let us know down below. What do you think of our Super Bowl? You said Broncos, Panthers, but a Panthers win?
I think that's what I made it.
And I said Patriots, Panthers, and an undefeated Super Bowl with the Patriots winning. Let's see if they can get past the Ricky Widmer kiss of death now, because we all know the Cowboys and Colts couldn't. I'm sorry, Claw Up Nation, because I really want the Panthers to do well now, but that's going to do it. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Ricky Widmer Marks, at the Mark Weber with 2 E's. Most Valuable Podcast is at Most Valuable Pod. If you're looking for that Greg Hardy letter, Mark, I'm hoping he has that on mostvaluablepodcast.com.
Ask for it. If you guys want it, I'll do it.
Ask him for it, tweet him for it, and he will do it. I want to thank you guys for checking out this podcast. As always, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this MVP podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Most Valuable Pod for more great podcasts.